world has a purpose. Everything. These Manischewitz, whole wheat matzah, not that I work for them, but they have a purpose. And your t-shirt has a purpose. And your parents have a purpose. And you have a purpose. And rocks have a purpose. And trees have a purpose. And what is the purpose of all of these things? Ultimately, Rav Nachman says that everything that's in the created world was created for one reason alone. That is a state called the Olam Haba. Many people wonder how the Torah talks constantly about Hashem is the one who's good and who does good, and only good comes from Him, and yet we experience much suffering and trauma and trials and tribulations in our life. How do we reconcile these two things? That Hashem is so good, and yet I'm not feeling this good. And the answer is that this world is not the purpose. This world is a means to an end. It's like if I took you in a vehicle, and I said to you that this vehicle is in order to bring you to California. And in California, you're going to experience an unbelievable world. The best. Kumbaya, come. It's going to be unbelievable over there. A lot of interesting fellas and a beautiful culture and the perfect weather every day. Now what happens? You get in that car and you forget it's in order to bring you somewhere. So what do you do in the car? You're checking out the radio system, you're lifting up the bass and you're bringing down the treble, and you happen to have hydraulics in the car, so you're bumping up and down, right? You're living the life in this car. What's the one thing you're not using the car for? Its purpose. What will end up automatically necessarily happening to you? You will come to a dissatisfaction. You are going to come to some type of emptiness in the car. Now why? You're going to say, well, you brought me to this car. This car is supposed to be good. Everything that you do for me is good. What's the issue? You're not using the car for its purpose. The purpose of the car is to bring you to California. The purpose of this world, which is the car, and the analogy, is to bring you to Olam Haba, which is California. This world is only a means to an end. So therefore we can understand now, if the purpose of everything is to get to that place, so then all of the difficulties that we go through are only difficult because we are not attaching it to the purpose. The only reason Hashem does anything at any moment to you is only to bring you closer to Olam Haba. Hashem created you and everything in this world only in order to bring it to that place. And He felt like this was a good means to that end. So therefore, let's say later after this class, you trip on the way home. Now let's say you're not thinking about the purpose of your life. Then you're just experiencing pain. And what do you do with that pain? You compound it. How did I slip? I told my mom not to get me these shoes. I hate these shoes. You know what I'm talking about? And you go on a whole list. Here we go again. I suck every day. Something bad happens to me, right? And you go into a very deep pit of despair. Why? Because you have disattached the purpose of what just happened. However, if at the moment that you trip, you say to yourself before you start thinking, nothing happens unless Hashem wants it to, and Hashem only wants anything to happen to me to bring me to Olam Haba, then at that very moment, you can actually feel joy and happiness within the difficulty. Why? Because you know the purpose. And we see this most clearly with pregnancy. That a woman who's pregnant can experience the most unreal physical suffering for 9 months, and especially most acutely at the moment of birth. And yet she has no psychological distress from the pain. She only experiences the experience as physical pain, not as emotional pain. Yet for us, when any little thing happens, it becomes tremendous psychological pain. What's the reason? It's that woman knows that all of this pain is leading to birth, and therefore she doesn't feel emotional suffering from it. She just feels the physical pain. So too in our lives. When we understand that we are like that woman who's giving birth, some people look more like it, and some people look less like this woman. But all of us, I'm just kidding. But all of us are like this woman who are about to give birth. When you remember that you're the pregnant woman, so you go, oh, okay, this is part of the birth pangs. But when you forget that, so then you're not able to attribute why you have a gigantic stomach seemingly out of nowhere. Okay? Everybody understand the analogy? This is the purpose. Okay, good. Is a person really able to chop this? Are you really able to experience this purpose? Yes and no. Because the purpose, Olam Haba, is complete ecstasy. Beyond whatever you have tried. Which we know and we can associate because you're one of those guys who wears the white kippah and grows his beard out. We know what you're doing when you're not here. However, Olam Haba really is a state of complete ecstasy, way beyond whatever the drug is like. It's levels and levels. It's increasing and increasing forever. That's the plan. That's Hashem's original plan for us, which He plans on carrying out, but with Hashem soon. So, who gets to experience a taste of this?
The tzaddik.
The tzaddik. The real tzaddik is able to taste Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh. And depending and according to the attachment that we have to him, to that degree, we can also experience it. And that's really his goal. His goal is to keep us focused on the goal. Because really the only real difference between him and us is he's constantly focused on the goal, and the goal for him is as real as I'm alive today. And for us, it's not that real. And because it's not that real for us, we suffer. That's the main difference between us. He has his eyes on the goal constantly. Now, how are we able to connect to tzaddikim? When do we have tzaddikim in the generation? How do we bring them in so that they can lead us to this goal? That's the whole purpose. So if Nachman says later that the tzaddikim themselves, they don't want to lead the generation. Why don't they want to lead the generation if that's their whole thing? Is to bring us to this purpose. And the answer is that they reflect whatever Hashem is doing at that moment. So therefore, when Hashem conceals himself from our lives, let's say there's a generation which due to a lack of emunah, which we said that this is the whole reason why Hashem conceals himself from somebody's life, to the degree that he lacks emunah, to that degree Hashem conceals himself. So for the guy who has complete emunah, Hashem is always present in his life. But for the generation like ours, that barely any of us have any of emunah, so Hashem is seemingly completely hidden, like in the story of Purim. So how do we get Mordechai to come out of the woodwork? How do we bring him out to lead us to Geula, to redemption, to build the Beit HaMikdash, which ultimately did happen from the Purim story? And the answer is when we take our anger and we mitigate it and we turn it into Rachamim. So now we're going to say, what does that have to do with bringing out leaders to the forefront? However, Rav Nachman says that we play our part and Hashem plays his part and the tzaddik plays our part. So therefore, what's the part that we have to play? We are able to receive from the tzaddik when in our personal life we work on taking our anger and we turn it into empathy and compassion. Now later on, Rav Nachman says, how does a person feel real empathy, real rachamim? He can only do that by first acquiring da'at. So the degree to which a Jew has God consciousness, to that degree he can have rachamim. That's why you see many of your family members, specifically your parents and your grandparents or the older generation, how often are they getting offended and getting angry and engaging in what you would probably consider juvenile conversation? Very, very often. Now why is that? The answer is because they lack da'at, because they don't have God consciousness. And therefore Rav Nachman says that they're very similar in consciousness to a non-human, to an animal. Just like an animal is kind of just, he feels something, he feels pain, he reacts, he feels like he's being attacked and threatened, he responds. He has no higher consciousness. So too, people who don't learn Torah, they also don't have a higher consciousness, and they respond and they react accordingly. So therefore, to the degree that we can have rachamim, to turn our anger into compassion, but we just learned now that the only way we can have compassion is by having da'at. So therefore, practically, by coming to these classes every night, you are internalizing da'at. And this is going to allow you to take your difficulties, your anger in your life, and to turn it around and to bring it into compassion, rachamim. And through this, you are going to force Hashem to anoint a leader for us. And where do we see this? Moshe Rabbeinu. What happened to Moshe Rabbeinu? He didn't want to be the leader. Why didn't he want to be the leader? Because the Jewish people had no faith. And we just said that when Hashem hides himself because the Jewish people have no faith, nobody wants to lead the Jewish people. So Moshe said, I'm not ready for it. I'm not prepared for this, even though he was. So what ended up happening?
He responded by saying, let Aaron do it.
Let Aaron do it. Why couldn't he do it? The answer is because Hashem was concealed from the Jewish people, Moshe was concealed from the Jewish people. However, when the Jewish people cried out to Hashem, which signaled that their emunah had bumped up, immediately Hashem sent Moshe to save the Jewish people. So somebody told me recently, what if we got everybody to do Ibo to do it for one time together across the world? I bet you we could bring Geula this way. I think it's possible.
Same thing about Shabbos.
WhatsApp group, you know.
Facebook Live.
They want them to do Valley all over the world.
Right,
We should
right.
go there.
Yes, we should do it. Okay. So we said like this. What happens when a person, let's say a non-Jewish leader, or even within the Jews, wants to take leadership? So we learned that leadership or kingship is referred to by the lowest sphera of the godly sphirot, the godly divine emanations, called Malchus. Malchut. This means kingship. Now kingship, kind of like in a video game, it has a little shield surrounding it. This shield is called emunah, or faith. So when a person tries to take kingship or malchus, then emunah seeks to see if this person has faith. And when he doesn't, he does not allow this leader to take the malchus. But as soon as a person is able to have complete emunah, so then this shield moves away and allows this person to take the malchus. But we've seen that there have been many leaders over the course of history who have taken malchut, kingship, and they did not have faith in Hashem, or they didn't have complete faith in Hashem, and they were usually very evil, very bad people. How did they do that? And the answer is that when the Jewish people don't have faith in Hashem, then malchut becomes vulnerable, and anybody can take it. She's up for grabs. In truth, though, listen to this, very, very interesting. The kings of the Gentiles, even though they rule over us, they do not actually have dominion over the quality of Jewish kingship, meaning malchut. They have not affected it, meaning that even if they temporarily have what's called dominion or kingship over us, still Hashem makes it that malchut can never actually be affected, even though she can be captured. She always remains in her beautiful, pristine state. For whoever of the nations wants to have an effect upon it, Rav Nachman says something unbelievable, finds neither that his dominion remains under his control or the Jewish control. And now, I was thinking about it, if you look at history, you've seen this repeat itself over and over again. You've seen nations like Egypt, like Mitzrayim, like the Romans, like the Greeks, like the Germans, who have rose up to very, very high levels of power, and next up was the Jews. And when they came to conquer the Jewish people, ultimately, not only were they not able to conquer them, but they lost their own kingship as well. What happened in Germany in the camps? It was a very interesting thing. People don't know this. Hitler was this close to taking over the whole world. He was mamish this close. You know what was the only thing that stopped him? They told him, his advisors, his wise men, he had a choice. He could either continue what he's doing and he's going to be successful, he's going to be matzliach, but he's not going to be able to keep the Jews in the camps, or he's going to be able to exterminate all of the Jews, but he's not going to be able to continue his world domination. He's going to lose. Can you imagine? And what did he say? He wanted the Malchut. He wants the Jewish kingship. No, I want the Jews gone. And what ended up happening? Germany lost big time, and they're still not recovered from what they lost, and they won't be until Mashiach comes. And on top of that, they don't have us either. They don't have anything. Where do we see this dynamic? So it's very interesting. You actually see it from the beginning of creation. What happened with Adam and Chava? Oh, Benny's favorite. Chava represents the Malchut. Right? She represents the female kingship, dominion. Adam represents wisdom, or Chokhmah. Right? And what do we say? That Malchut and Chokhmah, they're always together. Right? She's rooted in him.
Even the king needs to have wise men in order to rule.
Right. So the Nachash wanted her. Why does he want her? Because that's where Shefa comes down from. She's the kingship. Now what ends up happening? The Gemara says something interesting. It says that the Nachash was created, Hashem made him, that he was going to have dominion over the entire animal world. However, when he saw that he might be able to have Chava as well, it wasn't enough for him to be at the head of the animal kingdom. By the way, it's very interesting because the first snake was described almost in the shape of a dinosaur, right?
Not a dragon?
And they look like dinosaurs. They're definitely in the reptile family, and they're extinct. Very interesting. Just bring up a...
Snakes still exist.
Okay, I get it, but I'm saying that original snake, the Midrash, does not look like a snake.
It says he looked like a human.
It might have looked like a dinosaur.
Or alligator.
Dinosaurs went extinct, and this Nachash is also not here. The Gemara says that not only did he lose his ability to be the head of the animal kingdom, but he lost his feet, and now he had to be at the bottom of the kingdom and slither on the floor. And on top of that, he didn't get the Jewish kingship either. So you see this whole concept of thank you. He's only been here for over a year. Wow, this is pretty good. This whole concept of a non-Jew or an illegitimate person or entity coming to take kingship, right? Coming to take Jewish kingship, Chava, and then losing that and losing his own kingdom. This has started since the beginning of time. Yeah, and every single time this happens, the same exact thing takes place, all the way up now until Germany. Something unbelievable, thousands of years later.
You're saying it's going to happen again? Probably.
I'm saying it's never going to happen.
It's going to happen again, probably.
No, I'm just saying that this is how it works. They are made with like this predisposed desire to want Jewish kingship, meaning to have control over the Jews, because for some reason they see that this is the most important thing. They don't know why, but they feel that it is. No, it's because all Shefa comes to us, and everybody senses that, so therefore they want it. At the same time, it's like a faulty mechanism, like when they make PlayStations and they're made to break. So too, ultimately, the Yetzer Hara swallows more than it could chew, and it ends up vomiting everything out. Okay. This is what was written about the downfall of Egypt as well. Why? It says the princes of Tzoan had become obtuse, meaning that because of foolishness, namely a fall of their wisdom, their kingship fell. What happened with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? These were all from the tribe of David, from the tribe of Yehuda. And what happened when Nebuchadnezzar, he destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, and he took dominion over the Jewish people. So this whole thing should be in effect for him too. What ended up happening is he wanted Mishael, he wanted Azariah and Hananiah to bow down to him. But because they had emunah, so they could not take the malchut completely. And what did they say back to him? You rule over us as it comes to taxes, but with regard to supervising us over service of Hashem, you and a dog are on equal footing. That's what they said to him. Yes. And he said, let's throw these guys in a bowl of fire. So they survived. And that kingship ended up falling as well. Why? Because Rav Nachman says, Aval da, you should know, Shemina Shamayim ein manichim oto lakachota. Heaven does not allow these people to ultimately possess it. And this is now the heavenly voice that we learned about yesterday. Remember, we had this whole story.
Saying it was the wife.
Right, so let's go back and let's hear the story again very quickly. You have a person on a boat. This is the beginning of every story in the Gemara. There's a guy in a boat, and then you see that there's a basket. And there's a basket, and in the basket there are diamonds and jewels. Okay. This basket is floating and swimming in the sea. Yeah, going down. And a diver jumps off the boat to get this basket to get the jewels. So we learned so far that this diver is the non-Jewish king, so to speak, who's trying to take kingship. And that chest is Malchut, is the kingship. When he comes to get it, so Amunah surrounds it. That was the crown that was surrounding the chest. The birsha, right? The birsha. Oh, sorry, the fish, right? So the fish is surrounding. There was fish who were surrounding this chest, and the diver said he felt that the fish was trying to take his thigh, which means it's Amunah, which is protecting the kingship. So what did he do? We said the only way that the Malchut becomes vulnerable is if Amunah leaves. So what did he do? He took a flask of vinegar, which we saw that was corresponding to heresy or atheistic or secular ideas, and threw it at the Jewish people. And as a result of this, Amunah left, and he was able to take the kingship. But what ends up happening ultimately? Now there's a bat kol. There's a voice that comes out from Shemayim and says, what are you doing with this basket? Meaning, why are you trying to take Jewish kingship? It belongs to the wife of Rabbi Achinina ben Dosa. She will one day store in it techelet for the tzaddikim in the world to come. In other words, the strange ruler is kept from possessing the malchut, the kingship, because of the virtue of the perfected letters of the words of Amunah. This is Eshet Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Meaning what? We learned in prior classes that what is Malchut? So, Kabbalistically, Malchut, which is kingship, one second, is, or has contained within it, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is the main reason why a person has influence through his speech more than anything. And the people who have been leaders over the free world, even if they were complete jokes in every other aspect of their life, if they were very good speakers, they were very influential. And why is that? Because the concept of influence is linked up with speech since the beginning of creation, with the 22 letters.
Influence is called Malchus.
Yes, influence is called Malchus, and speech is called Malchus. So it's one thing. So you see like this, the 22 letters. And what is the 22 letters? So we learned in a previous Torah, this is considered the wife. We had a proof before. What's the proof? When you come up to say the Amidah, you say, Adonai sepetai tiftach. And what are the first three letters of those first three words? Eshet, which is the wife. Meaning, I'm about to start speaking, which is the concept of the female aspect of spirituality. That's the wife. 22 letters. Now, in this one, we have another proof, which is in Devarim, which is the book that we're on now. It says, Avanim shlemot tivneh. You're going to build this house with complete stones. And the first three letters are Eshet. What are these stones? And what are the stones that are always referred to in the Torah? They're actually letters of the Hebrew alphabet. That's Kabbalistically what they are.
The breastplate, which comes from the tribes, which is Tefillah.
This is also the stones. We are compared, every single Jew is connected to a different letter in the Torah. Therefore, we are, so to speak, like the stones which are used to build reality. Every single one of us is like a stone. So who was Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa? That his wife, meaning his speech, is considered the whole concept of emunah, of faith. So we know that Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, he didn't eat all week. All he ate was carobs from a carob tree. And it says in the Gemara that Hashem sustains everybody in the world in that generation just because he sacrificed himself completely only to have carobs from the carob tree. So you see that he is the essence of emunah. He gave himself over to Hashem completely, because nobody's going to be able to do such a thing when you have such delicious bash and plof waiting for you at every moment, only if you understand that the goal of this world is the next world. You have to have complete emunah to do this thing. And how are all the letters perfected? So like we learned before, and we're going to learn again now, the perfection of the letters of Malchut come about through speech. So therefore, the more that you talk to Hashem, the more that the letters are perfected. And through this perfection of the letters, you are given kingship, because your emunah is now perfected. And what is the goal of creation? We said it's Olam Haba. And Olam Haba is connected the perfection of all the letters, meaning the Jewish people. Once we are rectified and we are the letters, then the creation is rectified, and then we have Olam Haba. Now, the Gemara says something interesting. The Gemara says that even though this world was created with the letter Hey, Olam Haba is created with the letter Yud. Just like Yud is the first letter of Hashem's name, right? And we know that the name Adnut, which is the name of Hashem, which is associated with our world, is the last letter of that name, which means it's the end of creation. It's the beginning of the end of action is beginning of thought. So it's always the Yud, the beginning. And where do you see this very clearly? Something Rav Nachman's going to bring up in a moment. When you write down a word, which is the concept of creation, that first drop is a Yud. Any single time that you begin a word, the beginning of the word is a Yud. And any time that you're going to finish a word, it's going to end with a Yud. That last point when you lift it up. Otherwise, you have not finished the word. Yeah? It's beautiful.
That's very true.
Yes. Whenever
so
you...
the Torah is one constant name?
Yes. The Zohar says it's one name of Hashem. Begins with the Yud and ends with the Yud. So therefore, the perfection of every letter in the Torah is the letter Yud, because the completion of every letter is the letter Yud. Therefore, the perfection of every Jew, and where the concept of a letter is the concept of the letter Yud. And what's the letter Yud? It's the tachlit, it's the goal, it's the purpose of creation, it's Olam Haba. So therefore, when we attach ourselves to the purpose, then we are perfected, so to speak. Everybody with me? Again, we want... Yeah, wait for the questions. Hold on the questions. Again, we started the lesson by saying everything has a purpose. Now we're learning that the purpose is the letter Yud. And just like we were created with the purpose in mind, which is the letter Yud, we have to complete ourselves with the letter Yud. And what is the Yud? It's the Torah. It's God consciousness. So therefore, when we bring God consciousness into our life, we are perfecting ourselves, which is our speech. Therefore, through the Torah, our speech is perfected. And through the Torah, ultimately, we perfect until the speech is completely perfected, and then we get Olam Haba. Now, the letters that are in Malchut and the leadership, this is Malchut, which is the mouth. This is because principally leadership is through speech, because it's impossible to lead and command except by speech. We can conclude from this that through the perfection of the letters of Emunah, which are in Malchut, the tzaddikim know the goal of Olam Haba. So meaning, why are the tzaddikim able to be privy to, so to speak, this experience of Olam Haba even before we get there? And the reason is because they have perfected their speech. Through their perfection of speech, which is Malchut, they get a window into Chokhmah, which is Olam Haba, the Yud. Therefore, the tzaddik rules. This whole thing is the concept of the techelet, which Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa's wife is storing in this basket.
The diamonds?
The basket of diamonds, yeah. Said that she's going to place techelet in there for the tzaddikim in the future. Why? Because techelet is the same letters as tachlit, the purpose. Now, when you look at your tzitzit, let's say they have techelet. What's the purpose of the techelet? What? Right. So what's the yira? It's a muna. Right, which is the purpose of your life. The purpose of your life is to come to a muna. So techelet is the tachlit.
Meaning emuna is tachlit.
Yes. You just repeated what I said with a Torah singing voice. Therefore, you get credit for it. It's yours. It is revealed within the basket, the leadership, which is the malchut. For the tzaddikim in Olam Haba, now we can understand why, right? Because the tzaddikim attain the goal even in this world, meaning they're holding on to the techelet now. This is synonymous with the pasuk that says, "B'kol derechecha de'ehu." In all of your ways, know Him. Meaning, in every aspect of your life, remember the goal. Remember techelet. Remember the tachlis. Right? What did I say in the beginning about you tripping and falling? The whole difference between you experiencing God in that moment or not is, are you redirecting it back to the purpose of your life, which is Olam Haba? So again, I trip and fall, or let's have another example. I go to work and my boss yells at me. So now, if I am someone from our generation, I go on a whole thing about how this boss doesn't really respect me. I go home and I badmouth into everybody I know. I try under wraps at the water cooler to get him fired, maybe to get a woman in the office to seduce him so that he can get videotaped and then kicked out of the office. Yes, usually is how it goes, right? Oh, this is on Facebook Live? Corn Pops, yes, of course. In the middle of this unbelievable lesson, I will give you your Corn Pops. Enjoy. Don't forget the bracha. Okay. However, if you're a Jew, and we're trying to connect to our highest self, we're trying to find Hashem in all of our ways, meaning in every moment, then as the guy is yelling at me, as my boss is yelling at me, or right after, I should say to myself, this person is only yelling at me because this is going to bring me closer to all of them. I'm not going that far. Don't be so extreme. We're just trying to say that if you don't do that, you're not going to feel God in that moment. So there's a very deep connection between being conscientious and aware of Olam Haba at every moment and being aware of God at every moment. Now, what is this techelet? What is this tachlit? This is the blending of black and white, and is a color between black and white. What is blue? If you look at the color spectrum, it's right in the middle, between black and white, which is the purpose. How is it the purpose? Because white, so to speak, is like before the world was created, and black is the physical world. We are trying to connect the two, just like the Torah letters, right, on paper. Now, Nachman says something amazing now. It says, when black and white are brought together in the aspect of writing, this is the concept of black ink on top of white paper, where certainly the undersurface of the letter is attached and close to the paper, which is white. And the interface and the closeness, the black and white are blended into this concept which is called techelet, the purpose. And the undersurface of the letter is the end and the goal. The reason for this is that when the scribe starts to write, he begins by placing the reed or the pen with the ink on the surface of the paper. Clearly the ink is still somewhat removed from the paper, right? It's on the pen. Until the scribe presses the pen with the ink into the paper's fiber. Then the ink's blackness becomes very deeply and closely attached to the fibers of the paper. It's like a stamp, right? And that's the purpose. The purpose is to merge these two worlds. Like it says in the Tanya, like it says in the Zohar, the purpose of this world is to make this a dwelling place for Hashem. Meaning, to take black on white paper and to merge it. Hashem in this physical world. We can conclude from this that coming closer is the end and the tachlit, and in the place of the closeness, the paper and the ink are blended together. This is the techelet. And this is precisely why the heavenly voice came out and proclaimed. Why? Because the concept of this heavenly voice implies the purpose of all things. Now try to stick with this for a second. It's a very, very deep concept. So hold with me. Focus. In other words, it inverts everything from its beginning to its end. Inverts. What does that mean? Inverts means to take whatever it is and completely flip it. So how is that the bat kol? How is that the voice from Shemayim, which is the tachlit, which is the purpose? Because it says, who is a wise man?
Who sees the future?
Someone who sees the future. It says, who is a strong man? Someone who fights his Yetzer Hara. So, who is the wise man? One who sees the future. Meaning the future for him is now. So he's inverting the future with the past.
He's a strong man also, because he's doing it.
Yes, and actually that's exactly what the Torah says. He's able to do this because he's a strong man. Meaning because he's conquered his Yetzer Hara, he's now able to experience the future. Right? Because before wisdom comes Yira. Meaning fighting my Yetzer Hara. And through the fight of my Yetzer Hara, I'm able to see the future. Now this heavenly voice is akin to what is heard when one emits a sound in a forest, right? What happens when you speak out in the forest?
It echoes.
It echoes and you hear it back. So if Nachman says something,
Catching on.
yeah. When you hear that echo, it's as somebody else said the word.
It's like inverted.
Right? It's like inverted. Somebody else is saying the word that you just said. You hear the very utterance you hear of yourself. We find, therefore, that this voice, this heavenly voice, inverts the speech from beginning to end, bringing the end closer to itself. For example, when a person says Baruch, then certainly the letter Bet comes out first and moves away from the person. Then he hears the Reish coming out from his mouth. This comes out next. And then he has the Kaf. This comes out last. But this bat kol, when he hears it back to himself, he hears it the other way. It's an inversion of the speech.
So instead of Baruch, it's Karabba, like that?
So to speak, like a karov. Carib. Yeah. Therefore, a heavenly voice proclaims, you're trying to take the purpose, turn it around. So therefore, what happens? He says, this isn't for you, this is for the tzaddikim in the world to come, for the people who perfect their speech. And how do we connect to this olam haba now? Through our attachment to this tzaddikim. To the degree to which we attach to those tzaddikim, to that degree we are able to taste olam haba now and be constantly directed in our life towards the purpose. And through this, knowing Hashem at every moment. And you see very clearly that all the people in the Torah who are called evil, so to speak, what is the thing that makes them evil? They don't believe in olam haba. They believe in now.
The malchut.
So the main difference between a Jewish mindset and a non-Jewish secular mindset is the secular mindset is now because there's nothing beyond this. And the Jewish mindset is everything that's happening now is for the sake of then. This is why a person who only lives for now is constantly suffering and desiring more and more. Because he has no end game. But he feels that there is. But the person who's Jewish and he has da'at and he has a higher consciousness, he is able to link the end to now. And by connecting these two things, he has unity in his life. This is like making black letters on white paper. Every single time you have an event transpire in your life. Let's say tomorrow, you're texting a girl. She's not interested in you. You're hurt by this. You want to start crying. So what do? You say to yourself, this is only happening because this is bringing me closer to Olam Haba. And what do you do by doing this? You're taking that event, which is like a black letter, and you're inscribing it in the white paper. And through this, you have reached the tachlit of your life. And you do this over and over again forever. Does everybody understand? Do we have any questions? This is the end of the lesson. We're going to move on to a new lesson after this.
If the concept of Olam Haba is so vital and so important, how come it's not more clear in the Torah?
Oh, great question. You hear the question? Amazing question. You hear it? The Gaonas? If Olam Haba is so essential, why don't they speak about it in the Torah? I want to strengthen your question. You ready? If Mashiach is so important, why don't they talk about him in the Torah? If Tachet Meitim is so important, why don't they talk about it in the Torah? If Ibodadud is so important, why don't they speak about it in the Torah? What's the answer? The answer is, if it was written, it doesn't require faith. And the whole concept of the purpose is always directly connected to emunah, which means you don't know. It's all derived from the oral Torah, which is a wisdom which takes emunah to believe in. And the whole difference between us and every other religion is not that they don't believe in the written Torah. They believe in that. They don't believe in the oral Torah. Why does Hashem make it that that's the one thing they don't believe in? Because this is the essence of our religion, is the oral law. The oral law is the concept of emunah. So therefore, if it were to be written about in the written Torah, it doesn't take any emunah to believe in it, so to speak, because many people believe in the written Torah. Anybody else?
Is Mashiach a tzaddik?
Is Mashiach a tzaddik? I sure hope so. He's definitely a tzaddik.
Yeah, but Mashiach is born from parents that are not like
Anything special?
yeah.
That doesn't mean that he himself is not a tzaddik.
He's born from parents that are not what?
There's a tradition that his parents are going to be kind of Rav Nachman says his parents are going to be
It's
yeah,
going to be like David.
yeah, like King David.
But his parents did believe in Hashem.
Yeah, and Yishai was a very, very, very holy person.
Ruth.
But yeah, but they say that Mashiach has to come from the darkest place, right? Which also maybe means the darkest parents, not physically. I'm not a racist.
Good save.
Saved.
The secret saved with me.
Facebook Live. Okay, anybody else? Facebook Live. Any other questions before we move on to the next one?
The show must go on.
Good? Okay.
You said something about 49, which is intriguing to me. I want to replay it.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me know how it goes. Okay, we're going to start a new Torah. You ready?
Which Torah did we just finish? Which Torah did we just finish?
We just finished Torah Yud Chet 18.
18.
We are
Alright.
starting Torah Kaf 20. You ready? This is an amazing Torah. Everybody, I want you to put your safety gear on and get your beer straps ready. You ready? This Torah begins with a passage from the Sifra Ditzniuta. What is the Sifra Ditzniuta? We have talked about it once in the past. In the Zohar, which we know are the secrets of the Torah, there is one section of the Zohar. Can you not go through the whole Torah? There is one section of the Zohar which actually contains all of the deepest Kabbalistic secrets, which is called the Sifra Ditzniuta, which is the book of the modest, the sneer. So this passage, which we're going to start this Torah with, it actually comes from there. And this is the first time which we are going to discuss the beard. Like it said, amongst a certain individual who lives in Houston, Texas, fear the beard. Tonight we are going to learn about fearing the beard. Anybody catch my secular pun?
Fear the beard?
Yes. Does anybody know about this?
People who are bald just have big beards.
No. There's a certain basketball player who has a very big beard.
Harden?
Yeah. And he has a quote which is "Fear the beard." Anyway, we're gonna fear the holy beard instead of the National Basketball Association. Okay. Pikra Talita the Sifra Ditzniuta. In the third chapter of the Sifra Ditzniuta, Tisha Tikunim Yakirim. There were 9 precious tikunim, rectifications. It Masara le Dikna. They were given over to the beard.
That's a thing.
Everybody with me? There are 9 tikkunim. High supernal tikkunim. Where are they given over to? An entity called the beard.
Oh God.
Why in one place?
Fear of the beard. Okay. Kol ma de'it matama v'la it galya. The more something is hidden and not revealed, ila'a, the higher it is. Vikara ishtakach, and the more precious it is. Vahu ginzaya yakira. And it is the beard which is a very precious treasure. You hear this? The beard is a very precious treasure. Nimin al nimin. Hairs upon hairs. Mikame pitche deudnin ad resha. In front of the ears to the top of the mouth. Defuma. Laresha hai laresha achara. Hairs are above the lip from one side to the other. Ishtakach mitchot train nukdin acha malya dala itchazja. They are found above the 2 nostrils is a path which is full but does not show out. Now, this is a very poetic, majestic explanation of the human beard. Ilain itchafyan mahai gisa mehai gisa. The sides of the face are covered on both sides. Bahu itchazyan tapuchin sumakin kavarda. Showing out are 2 cheeks, red like a rose. Bachar chuta talyan. In one strand there is tough black hairs. Ukamin tekifin ad chedyoivai. Lips. These black hairs are cascading down from the beard area to the chest. Sivan. Sumake. Kavarda itpanun. Lips, which are red like a rose and free of hair, are in between this beard. Zeririn, nechatin, bigrona, umchafya,
Very descriptive.
kedala. Small hairs are resting on the throat and covering the back of the neck. Rav Ravin, uzirin, nechatin, bishkula. Long and short hairs which end together.
This is the thing against Moharans.
The elaine, what was
Actually, might even
Perfectly descriptive.
the elaine ishtakach gibar v'takim. With these he is found to be mighty and strong. So here you have a very mysterious passage in the Zohar which is dedicating a lot of energy and poetic imagery to the beard. And now you're going to find out a little bit about the greatness of the beard. Everybody with me? So,
what if the beard is gray?
so one second. There is a concept of a black beard, and there's a concept of a gray beard. Now we know that everything in the human psyche and the human physical form is reflecting a higher spiritual. So why is it that we have a black beard and then we have a gray beard? So, yes. But we're going to see that there's 2 main, so to speak, aspects of the beard. There is a level called zir anpin. So we know
That I'm assuming gray.
no. There is something called small face and big face. Long face. It's said that when Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, He did it under the guise of Zer Anpin, small face. However, when He gave us the Torah, it was through a higher revelation of Himself called Arich Anpin, long face. Now, besides sounding like Indian tribes from your local sleepaway camp, what is this small face, long face business?
White beard, black beard.
What was happening when Hashem took the Jewish people through the Yam Suf? They described him, and you can read in Az Yashir, like he was a mighty warrior, like a young stallion. However, the Zohar says that when Hashem gave us the Torah, He was like a grandfather with a long white beard, giving it to us very compassionately. So we see that this was a lower revelation of God, the warrior, and the higher revelation of God is like the grandfather. So here we have the concept of the black beard, and here we have the concept of the long white beard. Now, according to the Zohar, Zer Enpin, the beard at this level, has 9 tikkunim, which is corresponding to a passage in, I believe, B'Midbar. However, there is something that we say almost every day, where we describe the 13 attributes of Hashem. And according to the Zohar, this is the 13 tikkunim of the beard. So this is the higher level. So there's 2 different beards we're referring to. One of them has 9 tikkunim, 9 rectifications. One has 13. The one that you're saying every day is 13. Why are we saying that one? Because a higher revelation of rachamim, of godliness. That's what we want. No, da. This is going to connect back to what you said. Sheyesh neshama ba'olam. There is a neshama in the world. Now, whether this neshama is a spiritual neshama or it's always in a physical body, that's for another time. But there's always this neshama which is hovering in the world. Through which all Torah lessons and explanations are revealed. Meaning, when a person teaches over a Torah lesson to you, where is he receiving his insights from? And the answer is there is one soul in every generation which is actually giving over these insights to this teacher. And this soul, what is she like? Vehi mesubelet b'yusurim. This soul is burdened with tremendous suffering. How do you know who this soul is? It's constantly suffering. Pat b'melach tocha, like it says, bread with salt shall you eat, u'b'mayim b'masura tishteh, and water with measure shall you drink. Ki kach hi darka shel Torah, because this is the way of acquiring Torah. Meaning what? It says in Masechet Brachot, a very famous thing, there's 3 things that a Jew can only obtain through suffering: Torah, Eretz Yisrael, and Olam Haba. These 3 things can only be obtained through suffering: Torah, the land of Israel, and the world to come. Okay. All those who expound the Torah, they are all receiving from this suffering soul. Now we know that the Zohar says that, who does it sound like the soul is? The soul sounds like the soul of Mashiach, right? Just like David HaMelech is constantly suffering, right? So too, the soul of Mashiach is suffering. And that's why Yeshaya describes him as a suffering servant, because he is a suffering soul. Why is he suffering? For the Jewish people. And what is the benefit of this suffering? We never talk about that. The benefit of the suffering is now people are able to draw down Torah teachings, which is light of godliness. They're able to get it because of his suffering. The Zohar says Moshe, or Mashiach, is in every generation. The Arizal says he comes down 120 times, corresponding to the 120 years that Moshe Rabbeinu lived. Moshe does. And that the soul of Moshe is the soul of Mashiach. And just like he was, he will be. Just like he was the Redeemer, he will be the Redeemer. And this is one of the sources for the fact that it's Moshe, because that pasuk that says what was will be, the initial letter of that phrase is Moshe. I'll tell you very interestingly, I told you in the past, how did I become Baal Tshuva? It all started with an acid trip at a concert. So these strobe lights are not going to start going off. Don't worry. I don't have any candy in my pockets. Okay? This is a strictly kosher Torah class. Kosher Torah. However, this was the beginning of my tshuva. What was this such an impactful event in my life? Because I had a vision. Chazon. Yes, I had a trip. I was tripping big time. So I'm not going to give over the whole thing, but I'll tell you, and it's very interesting because I didn't know this was a pasuk, but one of the main things that was repeating and etched into my consciousness after the trip was over and over again, what was will be, what was will be, what was will be. And then later on, when I became Baal Tshuva, and I saw in the Torah, this is referring to Moshe and Mashiach, so this started to add a lot of clarity to that original vision which I had, which brought me to the land of Israel. Okay? What was will be. Moshe. Now this soul, all of her words are like flaming coals. How do you know you're in touch with this suffering soul, which is drawing down all Torah insights? Because her words are like fire. Because it's impossible to receive and draw from the waters of Torah except when one's words are like flaming coals. Like there's a pasuk which is very famous, it said, "Is my word not like fire?" Meaning, before you can attain the cool water of Torah, you first have to obtain the level of flaming fire. So we're going to see in a moment what this fire means in our life. How do we connect and to experience this flaming fire of the mouth, which then allows us to draw the cool waters of Torah. But when this soul falls from the level of, "Is my word not like fire?" and it's not coming out like fire anymore, then her words cool off and she expires. And this is the whole reason why Moshe Rabbeinu died. The reason why Moshe Rabbeinu died was because the words were not coming out like fire anymore. And as soon as this soul's words are not coming out like fire, she expires and she leaves.
Because he took the coal and it burned his mouth.
That's true also. Very interesting. When she expires, what happens? Then the Torah lessons which are drawn through her depart. We know that when Moshe passed away, right before he passed away, he no longer had these Torah lessons which he had been given his whole life. Where did they go? They disappeared. Even though they went to Yeshua, there were many laws and many lessons that had been forgotten. Why were they forgotten? Because this soul was expiring, so to speak. But the majority of them were brought down through now Yeshua. Then all those who expound the Torah are incapable of comprehending any of the light. Meaning, as long as this soul is thriving, so to speak, in our generation, we are all able to taste and experience that light. But as soon as it's not giving over this fire, then let's say you were just reading, now you're not able to comprehend anything that you're reading.
That happens.
Yes, it happens. As a result, what ends up taking place, all of a sudden people start fighting against tzaddikim. This is because the primary controversy which exists in the world comes about when Torah lessons leave. Why? Because Torah lessons reflect clarity. There's only a lack of peace when there's a lack of clarity. So therefore, when Moshe passed away, everybody started fighting with Yeshua immediately. Why? Because Moshe, or Torah, or clarity left. For a lesson in Torah is an answer to difficulties. Like Levi said before the class, these classes saved me. Why do these classes save Levi? Because Torah saves. It's the whole concept of the Torah is that it provides clarity in darkness. So therefore, when that clarity leaves, there is strife, always. This is the concept of Midbar Tzin, the desert of Tzin that the Jews were in, which is etymologically similar to the word Dibor Mitsunan, cool and indifferent words.
Oh, when you're speaking, the air is cool.
It's cool. Yes, it's not hot. It's not coming out like fire. And it was there that Miriam died. And Miriam is the concept of this soul that we've been speaking about, which bears the bitterness of the servitude of the Torah. Meaning that the whole reason Moshe and the Jewish people were able to receive these higher revelations of Torah was because Miriam was constantly suffering. Miriam and Aaron died similar times, and Moshe died a year after. Okay? But you see that the Jewish people, where did they get this well from? What was the well? The well was be'er, which is similar to the word be'ur, meaning to clarify. The well's whole purpose was to clarify Torah. So when Miriam passed away, there was no longer these deep secrets of Torah. And that's why the Jewish people were fighting with Moshe constantly, give us more water, give us more water. And then Miriam had to suffer more and more and more, because she is this suffering soul. In fact, her name, Miriam, means suffering. Where does the word Miriam come from? Mar, Yam. Mar means bitterness or suffering. And Yam is 50, meaning the Torah. 50 is always the concept of God consciousness, right? Like we receive the Torah on the 50th day. So too, she suffers for Torah. She is Miriam, bitterness of the Torah. And because of her suffering, Moshe is able to reveal these deeper teachings. But as soon as she passed away, the nation began quarreling immediately. They began fighting immediately.
I need water, I need this.
I need water, I need this, I need that. Because what was the water they wanted in the desert? They wanted the Torah in Olam Hazeh. That's the desert. The desert is this world. And because we lack clarity in our lives, and Moshe is the tzaddik, so we wanted that clarity, it left with Miriam, and they were all crying. Therefore, he had to hit the rock. This is why those who expound the Torah are called Morim, instructors, because they receive from the soul who's known as Miriam, Maryam, Mar. So the same root of Morim, which is to teach, comes from the word Maryam, which means bitter. They are also Morim et Morehem. They instruct their instructors, meaning from all my teachers I gain wisdom, but from my students the most of all. And this is what Moshe replied to them. Listen now, you Morim, you rebels, not morons. Now, someone who wants to draw true Torah lessons, meaning clarity in their life, meaning an answer to their problems, revelations of godliness, before they're able to do so, they must first draw to themselves impassioned words like flaming coals. So this is the big chidush that we're getting so far in this Torah. Before a person merits a revelation of Torah, they first have a revelation of their own speech in the form of flaming tefillah. Meaning when your prayers reach the level of intensity like fire, then you get a revelation of the cool waters of Torah. So this is the way it works.
So your tefillah has to be quote unquote hot, like flaming coals.
Yeah.
And the Torah that cools you off,
Which is the clarity of your life, which gives you the answers to your problems. This is called Torah. This is the water which cools, then it comes down. So to speak, this flaming fire is like an arousal from below. I'm praying to Hashem with all my heart and soul for an hour a day in Hibodadut. And what happens as a result of this? Then later on, when I come to learn the Likutey Moharan at night, I start to have very high revelations of the Torah that I'm learning. Why am I getting these higher revelations? Because of the fiery words earlier in the day. And then at night, I get the cool waters. And this is a arousal from above. Right.
Do you pray out loud?
You have to.
Loud?
You have to. It has to be loud.
To hear your own words. You say,
See, I pray at home though. Everyone's
So no, you got to go out where nobody is and pray out loud. Got to go out loud. Because the degree to which you're going to have clarity in your life is the degree to which your words are like flaming coals. The words are drawn. Now why is this? How does this work? So I want to show you how this works. Okay. We have two main levels. We have Malchut, which is the mouth, the peh. This is the flaming words. The flaming words. This is the concept of Malchut, speech. As a result of this, there is something that happens above, at the level of Bina, which is called the supernal heart. There's something called the supernal heart. When your words are like fire, then what happens is Bina, which is the heart, gives forth cool water in the form of Torah, which is Zerem. Okay. So we have, again, this requires a little bit of knowledge of the Sfirot, but we did this before many times, okay? You have 10 Sfirot. You have Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. And it's Chassidut, the whole point of Chassidut is to take knowledge of these Sfiros and how do we bring it into our practical life. Therefore, the lowest sphere is Malchut, it's your speech. When you pray with fire, this is like the perfection of Malchut. And as a result of this, there is a sphere called Bina, which is above the physical world. This is called the heart, Hashem's heart, so to speak. From there, all Torah is wrong. And as soon as your words become like flaming fire to him, then he releases Torah, which is called Ze'enpin, which are the 6 Sfirot, which are above Malchut.
Is it because the closest thing to Bina is Chokhmah?
That's what it's releasing. In a contracted form, it's releasing that Torah from Chokhmah. One second. No. I'm gonna get to you. I promise. Okay. The words are drawn from the supernal heart, and this is what it means. Sur Levavi, the rock of my heart. What rock is David HaMelech referring to? He's referring to Bina. This is the rock of Hashem's heart. A person has to pour out his words in prayer before Hashem, and this is really the rock that Moshe struck. According to Kabbalah, the rock that Moshe struck is the Tzur Levavi. Which, what did Hashem say to do? Speak to the rock. Flaming words. And he didn't. He struck the rock. And he forced the issue. He still got the water, but he was punished and not allowed in the land of Israel, which you're going to see later on. We're going to talk about Moshe hitting the rock. We're going to talk about the land of Israel. And we're going to connect all of these things together.
Rabbi, he did talk, but I guess it wasn't flaming enough?
Yes.
Okay.
A person has to pour out his words in prayer before Hashem. Through this tefillah, Hashem's rachamim is stirred in that heart, and it's open because the essence of rachamim is in the heart, compassion. Then the words flow from the heart, and through these words he draws lessons of Torah. So to speak, this is also Miriam's well. And that's where the Torah comes from. Therefore, when Miriam passed away, the well's not there, the heart goes into exile. Moshe is not able to draw forth Torah for the Jewish people. Now, this above mentioned heart corresponds to the Selah. The word Selah also means rock or boulder. And it says in Megillah, in Masechet Megillah, that words are in the Selah. Selah in Aramaic means a coin. Rav Nachman says, no, read this literally according to Hebrew. Words are in the rock. Meaning, the Selah is synonymous with the Tzur, which is the rock or the boulder. That's what it means. He split open the Tzur, the rock, and water flowed out. It's the concept of the heart, which is the Tzur of my heart. Then, as a result of your flaming words, which are out loud, and you can hear them, then the heart grows impassioned. And that's why it says in this pasuk in Tehillim, when my heart grew impassioned within me. Then, when in my utterance a fire blazed, then I spoke aloud. Meaning, in this heart are recorded all the true Torah lessons. They're all coming out of the heart. Record them as a register of your heart. And this is the end of this section. We're going to continue tomorrow night, this Torah. Someone who wants to take some lesson must take it from this heart. And he must plead to Hashem through impassioned words. Because of this, before anybody teaches Torah, he must first pour out his heart like water in prayer before Hashem. This is so that he may arouse this heart of Bina to inspire him with the words that are like flaming coals for his students to hear. Afterwards, he can begin to give the lesson, because afterwards the rock has been opened and its waters, which are the lessons of the Torah, will begin to flow. Any questions so far in the Torah that we're doing now? Yeah, you got it.
What can I do? I have prayed out loud before and it was very powerful to me, but I can't do that every day because I do go on. How can I reconcile that?
Are you locked in a cage in your house?
Where would I be able to go to the bathroom?
There's parks. There's
Think about it. It's called Forest Hills, Regal Park, Kew Garden Hill.
Fresh Meadows.
Fresh Meadows.
I mean, that has to be loud enough for you to hear it.
Yes.
It speaks so
If
loud
you're in
that
a room
nobody
and you
can.
close the door,
No. So the concept of hibodedut, hitboded, means to seclude yourself. So therefore, we did a whole tour on this. You weren't there yet. You weren't part of the crew yet. The best place to do it in a place where nobody ever goes. Not just that nobody's there then.
It's Cincinnati.
Because because we learned that the people who are usually there, they influence the consciousness of that place. Therefore, when people are striving after money and women and all of these things, and then they leave that place and you go there, even though they're no longer there, that consciousness has been affected by those people. So therefore, you want to go to a place that is not usually treaded upon by people.
in New York City, that's actually very rare.
So we have
There's so many
meadows, fields,
Like
and
park,
forests.
Flushing Meadow Park,
Parks.
there's people there.
Yes, but there are aspects, there are areas of that park that people don't go
I'll
to.
take you to a spot. What do they get? I'll tell you.
But I can't go there every morning.
So again, everything is dependent on your will. If I told you right now, through speaking to Hashem for an hour every day, everything that you want in your life is going to happen. Let's say I could guarantee this to you.
I do already speak.
Okay, but no, I'm saying like this, the way that we're describing it. Okay. Let's say you wanted $1 million. You get $1 million if you do this, okay? Would you find a way to get to the park? Or would you say, but I live in my parents' house?
No, I hear you.
Any other questions? Sign me up. Any other questions?
What do you do the days where nothing's coming? What do you do the days where there's no fire, no passion?
So the days when there's no fire, there's no passion, you cry to Hashem, Hashem, help me to have.
You can't do that.
What if you feel nothing?
Zero.
You're like a stone.
So say, Hashem, listen to me. Say whatever is going on for you, Hashem, I don't feel anything right now. Help me to feel something. And whatever you're going through, don't look for a reason not to speak. If you can't speak, say Hashem, I can't speak.
I just feel like you're a different person in those moments.
You are.
What do you
You're the
mean?
real you.
In those moments where you can't bring yourself to say anything, it almost as if you feel like you don't care. It feels like there's like another personality that's just
I'm
sitting
going to
there.
tell you what's going on. This is the highest thing in the whole world. The last thing the Yetzer Hara wants you to do is talk to Hashem in your own language, alone, away from people, for an extended period of time. As a result of this, whenever you go to try and do it, especially in the beginning, you're going to have moments like this. It's not because something's wrong, it's because something is right. Continue and push forward, and you'll see the Yetzer Hara will leave you when it sees that you're serious and you're not going anywhere, and you will be able to speak. Bezat Hashem. And by the way, it's one thing for you guys to come to the class, but again, the main thing Rav Nachman says and the rabbis say in Pirkei Avot is action. So therefore, even though this may be nice to come here and to get clarity and to hear very deep Kabbalistic concepts about different rectifications of your beard, at the same time, this only works when you do the things that we say. So to the degree that you take the teachings and you practically apply them, to that degree you're going to find success in your life.
I have another quick question. Like, let's say I do want to do like a quick people to do something's on my mind. I'm not going to go to the park. Not even just in the morning, just like in the middle
In general,
of the
you
day.
have an inspiration.
Right, and I want to go to my room and just pray privately. I don't want other people to know I'm praying.
Right.
I just want to do my thing.
Right.
I can't whisper. I can't just like.
You have to be able to hear it. Now, there is a very big concept of I'm inspired now, take advantage now. But in general, you should establish in your calendar, just like Knicks are playing Wizards tonight at 7:30 to 10. I am going to be watching the game on MSG with my popcorn and my beer or whatever. This is my thing. So you should have Hibo to do it as an hour of your thing. I suggest to all my students, and I teach a Sunday class as well, put it in your calendar, in your phone, just like you have business appointments. Put the hour, lock it in. Then go and turn your phone off, and then do your day. And don't let anything get in the way, because I'm telling you right now, it's the last thing that the Yetzer Hara wants for you is to succeed in this. And if you talk to any of the people who have found success in their life and experienced life-changing things from Rab Nachman's Torah, every single one of them is going to tell you the same exact thing. It's because I talk to Hashem for an hour a day. That's it, at least. Like I heard from Gedalia Fenster, if you don't think you have an hour to talk to Hashem, or you don't feel like you need to speak to Hashem for an hour, then you need 3. Any other questions? If you don't feel that you need to talk to Hashem for an hour, then you really need to be speaking to Him for 3 hours.
Like that's how far off.
That's how far away you are from the truth. For a person to think they don't need to speak to Hashem for an hour
Only
during the
24 hours in a day.
I get it, I understand. So then you're 3 hours in concealment. You need to speak for 3.
You spoke about the suffering servant and about Mashiach. Why is it necessary to have? I mean, I understand maybe you're saying that the suffering is to do a kapara, maybe atonement. But why is that necessary?
Right. So, getting into why it's
haven't we gone through enough suffering already?
right. So the whole concept of Mashiach suffering is so that we don't have to. So to speak, Mashiach signed up for the role of whatever the Jewish people leave over, I'll take it on myself.
And doesn't that sound a little bit like the
Yes,
other
sure.
religion? Yeah.
So there's many aspects of Christianity which are very clearly taken from Judaism, and because they become more, let's say, infamous in those areas, they become those aspects have become more focused on. So we associate them with Christianity, but there is a real thing in Judaism in the Torah that Mashiach has to suffer for us. Anybody else? That's actually from the gas. Tums work. Anybody else? Tums. Fast acting. Any other questions? I was just kidding. Anybody else? Smoothies.
So does Mashiach know that he has to suffer for us?
That I don't know.
Like, is he trying to get out of the suffering, or is he like, I'm suffering and I need to be suffering?
We don't know these things.
Only he knows. He doesn't. Does he know those?
When he'll know, he'll know.
When he'll know, he'll know.
No, now you know.
But for us, how do we, whatever's going on in our life, let's say we don't suffer that much, but we suffer a lot. What should we be thinking to ourselves? This is for the best. This is bringing me and everybody else to Olam Haba, whether this is really for me or this is for anybody else. This is the concept of always keeping our eye on the goal, That way we don't get stuck in that car, but we get to California. Right? Any other?
It was a solid class.
Thank you. It's a pretty weak review after a very, very heartfelt, it's pretty good. Solid class.
It's hard. I'll say something. It's hard to see the goal when you're living like every day.
You're not supposed to see the goal.
That's where the moon
No, this is the issue. You need to close your eyes. The whole concept of seeing the truth is closing your eyes. Rav Nachman says that no, it's not. It's the easiest thing. The hardest thing is to keep your eyes open. Do it right now. Do it. Close your eyes. Like the Zohar says, who is the most beautiful girl? It's the one with her eyes closed. Not because she doesn't look good. It's because when her eyes are closed, she's able to see the truth. This world is called Alma de Shikra, the world of lies. The reason why it's difficult for us to keep our eyes on the prize is because your eyes are on this world. Close your eyes and say Shema. Anybody else? You're not happy with that answer.
No, when you close your eyes, where are you?
You're in reality.
You're like
Or are you in a dream?
You're nothingness.
Beautiful. The ayin. It's the best. But really, the main way to keep this goal is to do Yipodot every day. That's always the answer. Anybody else?
I got that.
You got it. You heard it, but now you got to do it. You've been here for a year. Let's start it. Come on, let's do it. Let's go. We want Mashiach. Now, anybody else?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night. Bezrat Hashem. No. Last class of the week. I wouldn't miss the Torah. Especially if we're playing with whack, older.
How was that? I wonder. All right.
Thank you.
It's like, well.
Old geezers, we call